Very much, Chair. And just to follow Alderperson Taylor pointing out that all good things come from 20, I want to point out that Chief Snelling attended DePaul, so I'm happy to at least say that some great people learn in 43. But Chief Snelling, this meeting is a long time coming, and I can say on behalf of my ward, the 43rd Ward, that we've been looking forward to your confirmation. I've heard great things about your leadership style from friends and past colleagues of yours. And Superintendent Waller, we thank you for your service, especially as this transition comes during such a challenging public safety moment in Chicago. I strongly believe it's a moment we can fix through the right holistic approach. In 43rd Ward, we've been facilitating talks between our community and our commanders, Michael Bars and Amin Jasani, on community policing. This is a bit of a broad question, but community policing means many different things to different people. And I'm wondering, what does the strategy of community policing in Chicago mean to you?
Community policing to me means all police officers are community police officers. We can't have a system where we have a limited number of officers engaging in community policing and other officers who are not. Community policing means that we know our communities, we're engaging with our communities, we're listening to our communities, and we're listening to the problems of those communities. But bigger than all of that is that we're responsive to our communities. And we need each and every officer to step up and do that. It can't just be community policing. So there is a centralized community policing effort, but we need that shared effort amongst every police officer in this city.
Okay, thank you. And, on that note, as it plays in community policing, plays into staffing, I want to ask a little bit about beat integrity and the pathway there. The 18th district that serves part of my ward has had the largest loss of sworn members of any district in Chicago, with a 33% reduction over just less than the past 2 years. As we share a district with downtown, the 43rd Ward therefore struggles to have meaningful patrol of any kind. So I'm wondering what equitable deployment of officers looks like in your mind, and if you anticipate a road back to beat integrity.
Beat integrity is extremely important. There's nothing like knowing the officer on your beat and that officer knowing the members of that community, and especially when you know that there's someone that you can call, someone who understands you and understands the issues. And we do need to get back to beat integrity. What we need to do first, though, is assess our specialized units. We need to just take a good look at that and see where we can actually get more officers back on the beats. And it's not just there, but it's also officers who are in admin positions also. So once that assessment is done, we can absolutely work toward that goal. But at the same time, we do have to go all out in recruiting to try to get more officers on the job to fill some of these vacancies.
Great. So it's a balance between assessment and recruitment, really looking at where officers are. And on that note, depending on what the assessment says, do you support decentralizing officers from downtown and into the neighborhoods?
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
Do you support decentralizing officers from downtown and into the neighborhoods?
Well, when we say decentralizing, here's what I'd say about that. Every part of the city, every single part of the city has to be protected, right? We have to make sure that there's protection for everyone. We would have to see what our issues are downtown, what we're protecting, and what those officers are protecting. Anytime we can trim the fat somewhere where we feel like that we have an abundance of officers here that we can move to a place where they're going to be needed more, we will make those decisions. But I'll make an assessment of what's going on downtown before I use a word like decentralizing. Yeah. I just want to make sure that we understand that sometimes we have officers who are on deployments who are down there and they're not necessarily assigned.
Yep.
So I would have to take a good long look at that. But I am in favor of putting officers where they're going to best serve.
Yep. And just to be clear, so my downtown colleagues don't get angry at me, I'm not talking about moving people within the downtown district or officers within the downtown district in the neighborhoods. More so, there's a centralized office downtown that dispatches out to the whole city.
Yes, and those things I'm going to assess.
Yep.
Those officers I'm going to assess just to make sure that we're getting the best utilizations of those units.
Great. Thank you. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about guns. I know from our officers that CPD does a lot of work confiscating guns, and it's a pretty incredible amount of guns that are confiscated in the city of Chicago every year. There's so much work to be done to get guns off of our street, and I'm just wondering, in your eyes, what more can we do to approach this terrifying number of guns that are in our city every day?
We really need to look at laws surrounding guns, and especially repeat offenders. That is a big issue. You know, we have people who have been arrested on multiple occasions carrying guns, and a lot of these people are shooters. The guns coming in and out, I would say our officers do such an excellent job of recovering guns. I mean, when you think about the sheer number of guns, 13,000 guns last year that were recovered. And again, it's like I said, that's more than 2 major cities have recovered combined. Our officers work with our federal partners, and we have recovered guns in that way. We've also run crime guns and found those guns to be connected to more violent crimes. We actually need to start looking at tougher gun laws when it comes to our repeat offenders or people who are carrying guns illegally, right? I don't think that does anything to hurt the First Amendment. I think it does more to protect our city.
Yeah, thank you. And, you know, in last year's budget season, we had a bit of a discussion with CPD just on clogging where we know the beats we know the guns are coming in from, right? Because we have this reality here where we'll always border Indiana and their gun laws are quite different from us. So, you know, would love to brainstorm and really push that conversation in any way. I just have one more question, and it's all about the co-responder model to mental health calls. And I'm wondering if I can get your take on the current responder model. You know, how I view it, assuming that if we freed up officers by halting the co-responder model, there'd be more time for officers to focus on their safety portfolio.
Well, there are 2 parts to that. It would free up officers, because if we started this conversation by talking about how much officers are tasked with, and we're asking officers to do too much. If we're asking an officer to respond to a person who's in crisis, who's suffering from a mental health issue, and there's no crime there, then we're actually asking that officer to get to the scene and basically diagnose this individual and then try to figure out how to deal with this person. If we have people who are trained to deal with nonviolent, non-criminal crisis situations, it takes our officers away from having to try to figure that out without the complete training to do it. And it also frees up our officers to focus on more violent crimes or crime patterns. So I'm all for the co-responder model. Anytime that we can have someone free up our officers from jobs that are of a non-criminal nature, I'm all for it.
Great. And I couldn't agree more. I think that's, you know, a conversation this council will be having, but just the thought of, you know, dealing with mental health calls quite separately, I view as an all-around positive. So with that, I've taken up a lot of time. I just want to applaud Mayor Johnson on this choice. I think that he really listened to what people were looking for and found balance in you, Chief Snelling, and, you know, I'll be supporting it. You probably see no surprise there from my words, but we'll love to invite you to the 43rd Ward sometime in the next year to introduce you to the community.
I'll be happy to be there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman.